welcome again. In literature, there are two main broad categories of questions: open-ended literature questions and closed-ended literature questions. Now, when students are given open-ended literature questions, they are allowed to use a variety of characters to give the illustrations. But when they're given closed-ended questions, they only use a particular character that is mentioned in the question. For example, true motherhood is about selflessness. Using Nora, write an essay to validate this statement. In such a question, the candidate is only allowed to focus on Nora as a main character in answering the question. But similarly, the question can be open-ended, as we'll see in the next video. Now, in this video, we are going to focus on a closed-ended question. If the question says, self-sacrifice and love for family are the true indicators of motherhood. Using Nora in a doll's house, write an essay to justify this claim. In this particular question, the candidate is asked to use Nora alone as a main character to garner background information that proves the point. When answering such a question, the candidate can then therefore draw the rectangle we have here, and then at the center he writes self-sacrifice and love for family. This is what we are going to talk about. We're going to focus on this as we go through the question. It means then therefore that all the answers must be circumnavigated within the idea of self-sacrifice and love for family. But since it's a closed-ended question, we must focus all the answers on Nora and Nora alone. Other characters then therefore in this question only come as supporting statements to give background information to that question. Without thinking twice, of course, we'll have an introduction, and as illustrated in my previous videos, an introduction should avoid using the words used in the question. So we can use synonyms of the words in the question when writing the introduction. For example, it is the role of mothers to give their children the upper hand in order for them to succeed. This is also evident in the way the women adore the children they so much care about. In the first point, we can focus on how Nora shows her love. Since the question is close-ended, we'll focus on Nora alone, and we'll now digress from the writing at the center. Now we go to the first point. We can talk about Helma and Helma's health. What does Nora do to Helma's health to show that she has self-sacrifice and the love for her family? And then we can draw another line there, and we have overworks. Nora overworks. When does she overwork? Why does she overwork? How does she overwork? In gathering the background information, we can prove that indeed she shows self-sacrifice and love for family. And 3, the protection of the children. And lastly, we can have preferential treatment. In the last point, we talk about how Nora prefers to have Helma healed, yet the father is also ill. Normally, when teaching students this, always ask them to have the main idea at the center, and then we can now have the other ideas scattered all over. This will help them gather background information because they can see each point on its own. This is a clean display of a student who is well organized. After drawing these particular lines, the student can then therefore gather and mix up the background information as required. For example, Helma's health. What happens to Helma's health that shows self-sacrifice and love for family on the part of Nora? Now, When it comes to Nora and health, on page 12, the writer Hibson reveals that Helmer overworks himself dreadfully and falls dreadfully ill, and it is to Nora that the doctors go and tell her that he needs treatment. Now, the trip would cost £250, and therefore, Nora sacrifices her beliefs. She sacrifices. The societal norms dictate that the woman must borrow alone with the supervision and approval of the husband. But in this case, she borrows alone without the approval of the husband. She sacrifices what the society could do to her for breaking that law, just to borrow the loan to ensure that the husband is healed. Now, later on, she suffers blackmail. That's where now we see self-sacrifice. She loves Helmer so much that she does not care what the society wants. She wants the husband to be healed, and therefore, she takes the loan without following the guidelines of the society. In the long run, her self-sacrifice and love for the family pays off when Helmer returns as sound as a bell. Now, again, in page 19, the self-sacrifice bit of it comes when it is revealed that she tried to get Helmer to go to the south as if it were for herself. She tried by tears and entreaties to convince Helmer to take this trip to the south as if for herself. But Helmer says it was his duty not to indulge in her caprices and whims, and therefore downplays her desires. She therefore goes ahead and borrows a loan from the chief blackmailer, Krogstad. And page 20, Nora reveals that she does not tell the truth to Helmer because he is a self-opinioned man who wouldn't accept that a woman has sacrificed on his behalf. Now we can also talk about Nora overworking. How does Nora's overworking show self-sacrifice and love for her family? In page 7, Nora shut herself for a whole 3 weeks. Every evening until after midnight, working so that she could achieve or get money to help pay the loan. In page 20, it is revealed that it has not been easy for Nora to meet the engagements punctually, and the quarterly interest as to her so difficult and so demanding. In page 21, Nora says it is dreadfully difficult to manage the quarterly payments. And then in page 21, again, it's revealed that Nora gets other ways of paying this money. And lastly, in page 22, it's revealed that many times, Nora says, I was at my wit's end, which means she has overworked herself in order to get this money to enable her pay the loan that she took from Krogstad. Now, number 3, in page 46, 47, and 48, it is revealed how Nora protects her children. This happens after she has had a conversation with Helmer, and Helmer tells her that the atmosphere of lies purifies the home, and every breath the children take is like poison to them. Nora then therefore doesn't want to infect her children, and when the maid comes to her with the children asking for them to play with her, she refuses. Why? She doesn't want the children to be infected or hurt. She doesn't want to deprave her own children. And when Nora tries to plead with Krogstad, Helmer reveals how lies affect the children, and therefore Nora sacrifices herself. She would be okay if she is injured, hurt, and impurified by the lies. But she doesn't want her children to be impurified. Therefore, she refuses to accept to play with the children and sends the nanny to stay with the children away. Now, the last point is about preferential treatment. On page 13, it is revealed that at the time when Nora takes the husband to the south, the father was unwell, but Nora could not go and nurse him. And every day they had expected the birth of Iva. That also affects them. Now, Nora reveals that that was the saddest time of her life because she has to choose between her husband and her father. She therefore chooses the husband, and the father dies. She never sees him again. What a devastating turn of events. She sacrificed her self-desires to be with the father so that she can be with Helma and treat him in the south. She takes him for treatment, and the father dies. She sacrifices to be with the father, and in the long run, the father dies without Nora having to see him again. In conclusion, it is the acts of Nora that show her as a strong person who does anything in order to show her love and appreciation for her family. And this pays off when the husband returns a sound as a bell. Thanks for your time, and always remember to subscribe in order to get the analysis when they come out. Thank you, and God bless.